Hey, folks, and welcome into the Horns 24/7 post-game analysis segment here on the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel. We've had a couple hours now to digest Texas's 34-24 victory over Alabama, the first time the Crimson Tide have lost at home since 2019 to that LSU team that later went on to win a national championship. And I think the biggest takeaway here is have Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian showed that they can make that jump, and maybe have they made that jump? Chip Brown and I talked about this in our game preview, that this was the stage for them to show that they can do it. The stage was set for them. Alabama, number 3 team in the nation, at home, a place where they have been so good at home. I believe 52-1 in their last 53 games at home coming into this game. Can they pick up that statement win? Can they pick it up on the road in one of the toughest places to play across the country? And they did. I'm not saying, I think it's a little too early to say for sure that Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers have made that jump into the elite category. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but they climbed some rungs on that ladder last night. Quinn Ewers, 24 of 38, 63% completion percentage. We still want to see that number go up. I believe that's the same as last week against Rice, but where it stands out, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, and once again, no interceptions, no turnovers across the board for Texas against a very stout Alabama defense last night. Quinn Ewers finally found that deep ball touch, not once, but twice, to Xavier Worthy for 44 yards in the second quarter, and A.D. Mitchell for 39 yards in the fourth quarter. Both of those plays resulting in touchdowns, and Ewers was very happy in his post-game press conference when he was asked about it. I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to Ewers was his composure. This was a heavyweight bout, punches being thrown back and forth. One of the big questions for me coming into this game was, can Texas take those punches and punch back? And they did. 3 straight scoring drives late in the third quarter into the fourth, and then they ran out the clock with their final drive that started with 7 minutes and 14 seconds to go in this ball game. I think that says a lot about the maturity of Quinn Ewers, the leadership of Quinn Ewers, and Steve Sarkisian's play calling ability as well. This is back-to-back games now where the Longhorns have come out in the second half and scored on 3 straight drives, 3 touchdown scoring drives, if you want to expand on that. Now Steve Sarkisian, the offensive line, I think, was massive in this game. We had a lot of question marks coming into this game on whether they'd be able to hold up with Alabama's defensive front. And they did. You still want to see, I wouldn't say that it was a perfect night overall. Running the ball did not go as well as I think Steve Sarkisian would like to see. But he mentioned in his post-game press conference as well, the numbers may not reflect a good night running the ball, but when they needed those 2 or 3 yards on the ground on 3rd and short or even 4th and short, they got it. And they moved the chains to keep drives going. And that's crucial, and you have to credit the offensive line for that as well as the running backs. So Steve Sarkisian hands his former boss, Nick Saban, statistically his worst loss at home since he has been Alabama's head coach, and Quinn Ewers also was a huge part in that. So, like I said, too early to say for certain that they have made that leap into the elite category, but they are heading in the right direction, and now we very keenly watch what the rest of this season could look like for Texas, because the doors on everything, the Big 12 championship, the college football playoff, the national championship, they're all open. Now it just comes into, can they finish, and can Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian hold their heads high and walk through those doors? Second big takeaway for me was this defense with another strong showing, maybe a stronger showing than they showed last week, and that's saying something. 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions, all against the number 3 team in the nation in Alabama. Just a really overall good performance. And for me, the player that stood out the most, Anthony Hill Jr., was phenomenal at tracking down Jalen Milroe. He had 2 sacks on him and was consistently getting into the backfield, causing disruption, and he made Milroe's life very difficult. So you have to credit the true freshman Anthony Hill. We saw him a little bit in that Rice game, and we saw him get pressure. Wasn't able to bring anybody down in the backfield. But this game, he explodes onto the scene, and that sack late in the fourth quarter, where he went about 20 yards into the end zone to celebrate, I think shows you how hyped up he is and how much of an X factor he's going to be for this defense when they play against mobile quarterbacks. We talked in our pregame preview earlier this week about how important it was going to be for Texas to contain Jalen Milroe, and Anthony Hill did just that all night long. Jalen Catalon was strong when he was on the field. We saw him go on the sidelines a little bit in the third quarter, but he came back in the fourth, led the team in tackles with 7 when he wasn't on the field. How about Keaton Crawford? I think he played pretty well too with the snaps that he was given, made a couple tackles at the line of scrimmage, and overall just played well when Catalan was off the field. I think Ryan Watts continues to be one of the more underrated aspects of this defense over at corner. His pass breakup in the end zone when Jalen Milroe tried to get it to Jermaine Burton, just got a hand on it to tip it over Burton's head and ultimately out of the end zone. Even Des Bryant, former Cowboys wide receiver, tweeted about it saying that he was a first-round corner. So some high praise there. Ryan Watts, I think, is playing at a very high level, and I think will continue to do so. He's put on their best guy the whole night, and you didn't see the ball thrown his way too many times. Alabama's offensive line was simply just getting worked constantly by that defensive front. We've talked a lot about how that front D-line is the heart and soul of this defense and is the deepest position group on this team, and they showed it. A whole lot of different formations, whole lot of guys trotting out there, but really Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, and Ethan Burke are the three that stand out to me, causing havoc up the middle, making it very difficult for Jalen Milroe to escape the pocket when pressure got through there, and that shows in the 5 sacks and the 9 tackles for loss. Jahdae Barron and Jaron Thompson, the two Longhorns who had interceptions, both made great reads. Barron's was a little bit more athletic. Jaron Thompson's, I feel like, was just thrown right at him. He read the route the entire way, and Jalen Milroe must not have seen him out of the corner of his eye, so he threw it right to him. But good reads there defensively. And then they gave up some deep balls. Milroe showing off that cannon of an arm that I talked about earlier this week and still made some mistakes. This was by far not a perfect performance for the defense, but it was a very good performance. Whenever you are good enough to beat Alabama by 10 points on home turf, you're going to take that as a great performance. But still some stuff to work on, especially maybe trading off some receivers coverage, making sure guys don't streak down the field wide open, not wide open necessarily, but beating their man by 5+ yards. And still think maybe there are a couple runs where Alabama, especially in the first half, Alabama was running the ball pretty well. So maybe some more emphasis there, but can't complain too much if you're the Texas defense. Phenomenal night for them. And then the third takeaway that I had was getting this running game going. I talked about it a little bit earlier. Maybe the numbers don't necessarily reflect the fact that Texas got those 2 to 3 yard pickups to get first downs, continue to move the chains. And that is good. But at the same time, you do want to see more of an established run game. And we knew there would be growing pains coming into this season with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson off to the NFL. But you have to want to see a continued effort to try and get the run game going, even if the passing game is going well. You want to still be able to have balance, and they had very good balance last night at that. 37 rushes, 38 passes, so just about 50-50 on play calls there. Overall, on those 37 carries for Texas, 105 yards and a touchdown. That's only 2.8 yards per carry for the Longhorns last night. So still think that that's something that can be improved upon. CJ Baxter was the guy who got those short yards when they needed it. How about the true freshman coming into Alabama and having that impact where he can go through the tackles, put his shoulder down, and get you those yards that you need? But they still need to find a way to truly establish a respectable running game so they can make defenses respect both sides of the ball. The offensive line did give them more of a push this week, I felt. And I think DJ Campbell bounced back and played a phenomenal game. We saw DJ Campbell and Cole Hudson in the game at the same time. And DJ Campbell was really getting a push, especially on the Jonathan Brooks touchdown run, where he essentially picked up 2 blocks at the same time and drove a guy into the end zone to open up a hole for Brooks. So CJ Campbell certainly improved from last week. And then, as I mentioned, 37 rushes, 38 passes. There was a 244-yard difference in between the rush and the pass. 105 yards on the ground, like I mentioned, 349 through the air. So Texas would certainly like to get that 105 number up a little bit higher and really hammer into every aspect of this offense. Now we'll take a quick look ahead to the Longhorns' next opponent. They take on Wyoming. who is 2-0 heading into next Saturday's matchup in Austin. They upset Texas Tech 35-33 in double overtime in week 1. That was a huge win for the Cowboys. I did not see that coming whatsoever. And then they defeat Portland State 31-17 yesterday. Andrew Peasley, their quarterback, who I talked a little bit about in our season preview a few weeks ago, I mentioned how he needs to show improvement. Turned the ball over a little too many times last year, had 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Well, so far this season, he looks very much improved. 5 touchdowns and just 1 interception, and that interception did not come in the Texas Tech game, believe it or not. So, and still a solid, not a very good per se, but a solid Wyoming team coming into town. So this Texas team can't overlook them on their home turf, I don't think. Now, questions that remain to be answered will be our final segment on this show. First of all, I think, how much longer will it take for the rust to shake off? In that first quarter, we saw some catches being dropped. Xavier Worthy had a surefire touchdown right on his hands, and he just dropped it. And that happened several times throughout the course of the night. Maybe it's just early season things. Maybe it's a little bit of butterflies in the stomach in such a big game like this. But if Texas really wants to make this leap and really wants to compete down the line, those plays are going to have to be made. Points have to be put on the board. You can't go down the field and just settle for a field goal after you've worked your way into the red zone and you have 4 shots. So how much longer will it take for the rust to shake off and those catches to be made so that you can maximize your offense? Next up, what will it take for Texas to establish a stronger run game? I think that's a very valid question, and there still hasn't been a breakout lead running back on this team just yet. So who will start that movement, and when will it happen? It would be my next question there. Next up, can this team not let this win get into their heads and finish out the season strong? Texas has picked up big wins before. I wouldn't say any in recent memory as big as this one, but can they say, okay, yeah, we did win that, but we were meant to do that, so let's go ahead and beat everybody else on the schedule. It can't just be, we beat Alabama, we think we're the best in the nation, and then somebody comes up and shocks you. So that can't happen if Texas wants to truly compete. So can they shut out the outside noise and still play with enough confidence to perform at a high level and get more wins throughout the rest of the season? And last but certainly not least, can Steve Sarkisian continue to now finally adjust better in the second half and close out games on top? We've seen it in back-to-back weeks. Texas turned it around against Rice in the second half after a slow start. Same thing here with Alabama. A little bit slow at heading into the half. A lot of question marks, and you come out with 21 points in the fourth quarter. So can that continue to happen? And can that lead to more wins and Texas closing out those close games, intense games like this one, and end up coming out on top? Because if this was Texas last season with that second half where there was punch and counterpunch, I'm not sure the Longhorns would have been able to win it. But this year, Steve Sarkisian proves me wrong, because I picked Alabama. I'm fully transparent. I picked Alabama in our pregame predictions this week. Proves me wrong, proves a lot of people wrong, and picks up a statement win. But can he keep that going? Can he continue to improve in the second half? That's going to do it for our post-game analysis show here on the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching with us, and let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Plus, turn on notifications so that you know when all of our new content drops over here. For the rest of the crew, my name is Tommy Yarrish. We'll see you next time.